If you want to listen to this episode or any of our episodes ad-free, you can do that now. Head on over to Patreon. Click on the ad-free level. You get all of our bonus shows that you've been hearing so much about. Plus, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you can listen to this episode or any of our other episodes at the same time, ad-free, over on Patreon. You know that saying, the more things change, the more things stay the same? I find it completely untrue when it comes to housewives, especially first-year housewives. I can't tell you how many first-year housewives we meet and we say, don't change, be the same person. And then a year later, they're kind of a totally different person. No shade at all, but listen to this interview. We look back today with this interview that we had last year around this time with the one and only Miss Whitney Rose. I mean, how things have changed in Salt Lake just 1 year later. Meredith is no longer friends with Lisa. Shah is being investigated by the feds. We didn't know who Jennie Nguyen was. Now we know who she is. Now she's gone. Mary's gone. Man, things are moving fast. So I find this so interesting. This was recorded right on the heels of the first reunion. So it's a sit down with Whitney Rose. Listen to this and tell me, I mean, is this the same Whitney we know today? And literally, no shade. I just think it's so interesting to look back and see how things have changed just 1 year later. Enjoy. Hey, everyone. This is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only Miss Whitney Rose.
Hi, David.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well. I'm excited to be here with you tonight.
I'm excited to finally chat with you, you know?
I know, it just took a minute there.
Listen, you've been busy, I've been busy, you've been busy. So what's going on today in Salt Lake? What have you been up to today?
Oh my God. Today has been like a day of total recovery and trying to get things done. I've had a very busy week.
I'm sure you have.
And I got up and I actually went to cycling and it did me over the top. I was so tired. It just burned too much.
There's something I'm I'm just really tired today too. So that's why I'm drinking coffee. It's not that,
Well, Heather and I ended up staying out until 3 a.m. on Friday night. And I had a really busy Saturday and I just haven't had a chance to recover from that yet.
I went out Friday hard myself. It's just, yeah. You know what it is? I don't go out like I did before COVID. So when I go out now, I'm like, oh. And then you have a day yes, Saturday was a wreck for me. And I'm like, is this how I felt every day before COVID? I think it might have been.
Yeah, and you just got used to it. And the other thing is you have to sit at your table the entire time. So you're just drinking and you don't notice the effects until you stand up. Because usually we're in a bar walking around and moving and you know where you're at. But the bad weather girls, we had a storm come through Friday night. We had so much fun.
I saw Heather posted. Is that what I saw? She posted weather girls. Where'd you guys go? Did you just stay in one place all night or?
Yeah, so we were up in Park City during the day. At a really cool spot called Boneyard with some of the other women. And then she and I just kept the party going and went to Lake Effect.
Nice. So at least today you're recovering.
Yeah.
So now you are from Salt Lake originally, right?
Yes, born and raised.
Wow. What was growing up? So, I know it says, I know you've talked about this before, but I know it says you're Mormon royalty, or you've said that. Just now that you're here, what does that mean?
Yeah, so that means that if there was a such thing as the Mormon royalty, it would be my family because on my mother's side, both bloodlines trace straight back to Joseph Smith. So both of my grandfathers were Mormon pioneers and had multiple wives coming across the plains. One of them, Shadrach Roundy, was the bodyguard to Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. So he had perhaps the most important job of all, right? And being Joseph Smith's bodyguard, the prophet of the church.
Wow.
And then on the other side, the Robinson side, that's the side I'm related to Heather on. They're just like iconic pioneer family that settled American Fork and Pleasant Grove, Utah.
Wow.
I mean, Heather and I have streets named after our families, memorial buildings, libraries, gardens, like, yeah.
That's that's the real deal.
I mean, it doesn't get any more like Mormon than that. Like it's who I am. Even though I don't identify as Mormon, meaning I don't believe in the doctrine and don't practice the religion, it's like I'm born into it. So I'm like a pioneer woman by nature.
That makes sense. And then, I mean, because I mean, I think you mentioned this on the show, but like, when did you officially kind of like leave that? Like, was it when you met your now husband? Was it all because of that? And like, that wasn't accepted by the church?
Yeah, so that was the final straw, but my journey really began when I was 18. I just started really challenging my, like how I was feeling inside, meaning when I was at church, I felt off. I didn't feel like everything was aligning with my inner compass, if you will. And so I started exploring not going to church. I told the story on the show about how I went on a 3-week church history tour from Salt Lake City to New York.
Yeah.
That same night, I came home and drank beer for the first time ever. Like I was just, something in me it wasn't aligning. But really I took my final step out when Justin and I got together. Because yeah, it was very let down on. We had a very sneaky romance. So
I love how, you come to New York City and then you get home and you're like, well, now it's time for a beer.
Yeah. It was like, and that just like polar up, like that's polar ends of the spectrum, right? And so for me to go from this side to this side so quickly and not feel bad about it, that really shook me to the core.
Right. I'm sure that was hard to deal with.
Yeah. Cause I'm like, I should be feeling terrible and I don't. I actually feel very myself.
You're like, okay, wait a second. I'll have a second beer. So how did you get involved with the show? Like originally, like how were you, like, obviously you knew Heather before this show.
Yeah. So I knew Heather and Mary before the show. But Heather's really the one responsible for roping me into this. So Heather and I were great friends, and she just kept saying like, you're perfect for this. You're perfect for this. And I'm like, no, I am not. I have like 400 followers and it's all about my dog and kids. Like, I didn't think that I would be interesting for people, even though I knew I had an interesting life. I'm a housewife fanatic. Like, I'm a huge fan.
You were a huge fan before.
So it just is crazy that I'm here, but it's all because of Heather.
Were you like, what were your favorites before this? Like, what was your favorite show?
Beverly Hills, New York, Atlanta, OC. Now that I know a lot of the Dallas women, I've been getting into Dallas. This season's crazy.
This season is crazy.
Yeah.
Did you watch any other shows on Bravo? Like, were you a fan of like Vanderpump Rules or Shah's or all that? Like, you were just a Bravo-holic.
Everything. Bravo-holic, Below Deck, Southern Charm. I love Vanderpump Rules. That's the first show Justin started watching on Bravo.
Listen, I used to say, it's different now, but Vanderpump for me that was it. It was like, there was everything else. And then just that show was the best show around it's still around, but like in its heyday.
Right. That was brilliant. And that cast is amazing.
Did did I see somewhere like, now like Katie Maloney like gave you advice throughout this whole thing?
Yeah. So I actually have mutual friends with Lala. So I had been talking to Lala and Katie throughout this process, but Katie's really invested time in me and like prepping me for like all the haters on social media, that sort of thing. And it's been nice to just have like someone who's closer, like, because we're closer in age. She's from Utah, so we have a lot of the same like programmings and mindsets, and it's really fun to have like these Bravo celebrities like having my back.
What's the best advice that Katie or Lala gave you, like going into all of this? That
to be honest and real, because that is the only thing you will not regret. even if you look like a fool for a second, feel like a fool, you will never regret being honest.
That's good advice.
And that was, I stuck by that for season 1, and I think it got me far because I don't regret anything, even the drunk hip hop party.
Like you have no regrets from the first season.
I have no regrets. That's a lie. I have one regret, and I think that I spoke to it in the reunion part 2, is that I held back how I really felt about some of the women and the way that they treated me.
We're going to get into that in a second. Who else did you like? Who else, like you said, you were a huge fan of Bravo. So, I mean, well, first of all, when you were eventually now in the mix through Heather, like, were you freaking out? Like, I mean, as a fan of like Bravo in the show, like Salt Lake is getting a Housewives and you're going to be on it.
Yeah. One, my hometown is now on the map of the Bravo world. And to me, that's like one of the biggest things that could happen to my city, right?
Seriously.
And I'm a part of the cast. And not only that, I'm part of the OG cast. Like, no one can take that away from me or anyone else, the 6 of us. That's pretty cool.
And I mean, just think about it, because you're such a huge fan. Like, what if you didn't get involved? Like, I mean, how would you feel about if this show were filming and now out and it's a huge thing, like, and you lived right down the street and weren't a part of it?
Yeah, I'd probably be sad.
I think you would be sad. Did you have any reservations, like, in joining, like, once you were in the mix and Heather put you forward? Were you like, besides, okay, I have 400 followers and, you know, I may not be interesting. Like, did you have any other reservations?
Yeah, just I knew that if I was going to do this, I was going to go all in. And that scared me because, yeah, I don't live like a lot of my fellow Utahns. And, you know, I was little nervous. My biggest reservation was for my children. I never wanted them to feel judged, criticized, or hated because their mom is this wild, crazy housewife.
On TV for everyone to see on a stripper pole.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, I'm not going to hide things that I love about myself. So it's been hard because I didn't want them to lose out on play dates or, you know, things like that. But then I think COVID happened. We have a pandemic. So naturally, all of that kind of stuff stopped anyways. So actually, I think I got lucky and we just kind of eased our way into it. And people have been very gracious to my family and I.
Really? Like, you haven't seen, like, your children didn't lose any play dates or anything like that?
No, the community has been pretty supportive, actually.
Really? Because, I mean, you would think, you know, you could see the community not being supportive just because.
I mean, there's a few bitches here and there. But it's a good lesson for me to teach my kids to, like, you know, just turn the other cheek, suck it up, because this is life, right? So trying to preserve their childhood, but teaching them these big lessons is kind of cool.
That's a good one. I mean, like, do you find that, like, when you're, you know, walking down the street or whatever, you know, people, I mean, I would think, listen, people are going to judge anyway, but there's this whole other level now of, like, Mormonism and all these things that are apparently not allowed.
Yeah. I think that the outward judgment doesn't come to my face. It's all behind my back, and people will tell me what, you know, people are saying in chat rooms or like my community chat room, Facebook group, things like that. And I'm just like, well, if they're not going to say it to my face, then it doesn't matter. Like, it's not real.
Totally. Do you see the opposite? Like, you know, now that you're on TV, like, are you hearing from people that you haven't heard from in like 20 years?
Oh, yeah. Everyone's coming out of the woodworks. I even have a brother that I haven't talked to in years that's come out, and we've rebuilt a relationship. It's been really cool.
Really?
Yeah, because he saw me on TV and was like, holy shit, that's my sister.
So he didn't even know you were cast?
No.
Is it your brother from, like, your same father who we saw on the show?
Yes. So I have, my mother had 2 boys. My dad had a boy and a girl. They married each other and had me and my younger sister. So I have 4 half siblings and 1 full-blooded.
Okay, wait, like, let me just, okay, so it's, because we saw one brother on the show.
Yes, my mother's son.
So wait, your father had 2 children, and your mother has 2 children, and then 2 of them got married.
No. Then my parents married and had me.
Okay, got ya.
Yeah. No incest going on.
No judgments. I'm like, before this rumor gets started, I just want to clarify this. So, wow. So that's got to be a great, like, outcome of this show, that you were connected with your brother.
The other really cool thing I have to admit is just like everywhere I go, I get recognized and people want to tell me how much they love me and take pictures. And, you know, it's like, it's overwhelming sometimes when I just want to run into the grocery store really quick and I'm not
Yeah.
like all done up. So that's been like a little overwhelming, but overall I love all of the love and support.
And imagine like once the world is open, like airports, it's gonna just magnify.
Yeah. We've already had an incident where my son was throwing a fit and I was like, he was running away from me and he was upset. And then just right after I kind of like borderline lost it, but I held it together, a woman came up to me and asked for a picture. And I was like, did you just see all of that? And she's like, oh, I did. I loved it.
That's so funny. So really, other than Heather, like how much time did you spend with all the other women like before filming started?
Zero. Like I really didn't spend much time with any of them.
So
I
it was
really,
really just, here we are, let's start.
yeah.
So let's just talk about some of the women for a minute. So let's start with Jen Shah, just because, you know, there's so much talk. I mean, I've talked to some of the other Salt Lake housewives, like I bring this up, you know, there's all this talk. Andy even asked her on Watch What Happens, like, you know, is she faking it for the cameras? You know, there is this talk that she's acting like we're in our, you know, 15th year of Housewives. Like you were a fan, everyone sat around and watched the show. Like, is Jen, or is she really a different person when the cameras are rolling?
I 100% see two different people. It's all, to me, it's almost like she's watched every city of Housewives and pulled the most extreme personalities from each city and put them all together. And so she's trying to be this trope of like the biggest, loudest housewife. Because she, like, when we're not filming and I've been around her, she's very different.
Like how so?
Like she's just calm and chill and nice. Like we've actually, the night of the premiere, I ran into her at a restaurant and she sat at my table the entire night. And I mean, it's no secret that she was coming after me all summer, right?
Yeah.
And on the show, like we see it all season. And even after we wrapped, it was like after me in very big, hurtful ways. And then I'm sitting next to her and she's like doting on me, like buying me shots. Like it was like very, very interesting. And we have a lot of the same, I know a lot of her Shah Squad and they always are like, she's just so different. Like she's so kind. And I'm like, well, not been my experience.
You've heard that even from like members of her own Shah Squad.
Everyone who knows her from her previous life, meaning before the show, no one recognizes her.
So why do you think she's different when the cameras are rolling?
I don't know. I think maybe it really is a side of her and it comes out on camera. I mean, I don't doubt that she's big and explosive, but I'm wondering if it's like big and explosive personality, right? Even when in a calmer environment, I don't know if it's just like for attention to get camera time. I don't know what it's about. I don't feel like I truly know who Jen Shah is, so I can't really speak to like why I think she does it, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I mean, right, because like that's the chatter online, you know, of that. The natural suggestion would be it's for camera time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll see if something changes, but
why do you think she came after you so hard? Is it like, well, I guess why?
I think for her, I was an easy target because I'm younger, I'm kind, I probably come off as like a pushover. In her eyes, I think she thought I was weak and she could walk all over me. And I think that she and I get what we want in very different ways. I come from love and kindness and respect to get what I want. And she comes with fear, power, aggression, you know? And it's nothing to against her. It's just that's how she's learned to manage life, business, family, and whatever. And that's just my experience. And I think that no matter what, I couldn't say a word, I'd trigger her just because of my energy.
And like, to your point, you know, right, like if you want camera time, like you're suggesting, and she's different when the cameras are rolling, one way to get it is to pick somebody, and you would think you'd pick the perceived weakest link in your mind.
Yep. So I think it was first Mary, because that was her first target, right? Mary. They had the whole hospital issue, hospital smell.
Yes.
And it seemed to just transfer from Mary to me when I stood up to her about Mary. Because if you remember in the hot tub scene, I was like, well, I don't like you talking about my friend like this. I think that's unfair. However, I stand up for what's right and what's wrong. And it's so funny because Jen keeps stealing that line from me.
Oh, really?
I was the one who told her, I'm not going to choose a team. I'm not going to choose Team Jen or Team Mary. And you see her ask Heather and I to do that many times, right? And I just kept saying, I don't choose teams, but I'll stand up for what's right and wrong. And if I feel like you're not doing something right, I'm going to defend the other person.
That makes sense.
I think that's really, that's when it switched. And then I became her target.
What about, well, I mean, that must be awkward. Like when you see one person and then the cameras are rolling, like, did you ever get used to it? You know what I mean? Like if you saw it, like, you know, it's a lot of footage. I know it's edited down, but like eventually during the filming process, were you like, oh, this is how it's going to be? I've been sleeping so much better, and that's because I have a Helix mattress. Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for somebody else? With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way you sleep. Everybody is unique, right? Listen, Helix has soft, medium, and firm mattresses. They have mattresses that are great for cooling you down if you sleep hot. I took the Helix quiz and I was matched with an extra firm mattress, and they even get into details like, do you sleep on your side, back, stomach? Do you move around all night? Just go to helixsleep.com/velvet, take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/velvet. That's helixsleep.com/velvet. Go now for $200 off and 2 free pillows. This episode is sponsored by Ritual. Protein powders can be so intimidating, but the fact is, we all need protein. The thing I love best about Ritual, besides the great taste, is the ease. It's a super flexible subscription service, and it's so easy to incorporate Ritual into your daily life. You just add water, shake, and sip. If you think I have any time between hosting this podcast and living life to worry about protein powders and health, I don't. Ritual makes it so simple. And you can choose from 3 thoughtful formulas with 20 grams of pea protein per serving. The Daily Shake 18, the Daily Shake 50, and the Daily Shake Pregnancy and Postpartum. I also love that Ritual is just the good stuff. There's no added sugar, no sugar alcohols, soy-free, gluten-free, and non-GMO. Ready to shake up your ritual? My listeners get 10% off during your first 3 months at ritual.com/velvet. Ritual even offers a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% in love. Visit ritual.com/velvet today for 10% off your first 3 months. I have to tell you guys about an amazing new service I found called FrameBridge. FrameBridge makes it easier and more affordable than ever to frame your favorite things without ever leaving the house. I know, amazing. Just go to framebridge.com and upload your photo, or they'll send you packaging to safely mail in your physical pieces. Preview your item online in dozens of frame styles and gallery wall layouts. Choose your favorite or get free recommendations from their talented designers. FrameBridge will custom frame your item and deliver your finished piece directly to your door, ready to hang. Instead of paying hundreds you'd pay at a frame store, their prices start at $39 and all shipping is free. Get started today. Frame your photos or send someone the perfect gift. Go to framebridge.com and use code VELVET to get an additional 15% off your first order. Just go to framebridge.com, use promo code VELVET. Framebridge.com, promo code VELVET. My journey for learning a new language is going well, and that's because I have Babbel. I've chose to turn to Babbel to learn Italian, but you could learn up to 14 languages from Babbel: Spanish, French, Italian, German, and so on and so forth. Anyone who knows me knows that I've been to 55 countries, and Babbel comes in so handy when I'm traveling. Yes, I actually use the languages I learned from Babbel in other countries. The whole process is so addictive, fun, fast, and easy. The app is great. And it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code VELVETROPE. That's BABBEL.com, code VELVETROPE. Babbel, the language for life. I know we have a lot of fun here and talk about reality TV and all the drama, but at the end of the day, listen, what really matters in our lives is our relationships, especially those with significant others. In times like this, more than ever, having someone you can trust and talk to is so important, but even the best relationships hit bumps in the road. That's why I find Talkspace so important. Talkspace Therapy gives you unlimited access to a licensed therapist, so you can clear up the confusion and focus on what matters most, being the best person and partner you can be. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I am not good at relationships. In Talkspace, listen, whether you're married for years or re-entering the dating scene or just trying to get comfortable with being single, talking to a therapist can really help. Join Talkspace today and start the journey to happier, healthier relationships. Just visit Talkspace.com and get $100 off your first month when you use promo code VELVET at sign up. That's $100 off Talkspace.com, promo code VELVET. On Wondery's podcast, Even the Rich, co-hosts Brooke and Arisha share the stories behind some of the most famous and infamous celebrities in history, from Queen Madonna to Britney Spears to the Kardashians. And in an all-new season, they investigate the shocking kidnapping of heiress Patty Hearst. This show is part history. I've learned a lot about Patty Hearst that I didn't know, part comedy, part gossip, and completely fascinating. And if you want more Brooke and Arisha in your life, they're the perfect guides to give you your daily dose of celebrity gossip on Rich and Daily. Man, and we have a lot going on in the celebrity world. I mean, Britney versus Jennie Nguyen is literally, I didn't see this one coming, and I cannot get enough. Brooke and Arisha cover it. And really, I love their new season of Rich and Daily, where they talk about the Patty Hearst case. Listen to Even the Rich, Patty Hearst, and Rich and Daily on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or you can listen ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app.
Yeah, there's a very strong pattern. Yeah. So I knew going into every situation what was going to happen.
And then did you just get used to it or like change your actions towards her of like, this is just how this filming process is going to be with her?
Yeah, I think I started like mentally creating space with her.
So that must have been like filming harder than you expected. Like, did you expect all that? I mean, like, cause you watched Housewives, like, or you just didn't expect all of that. Like, even though you watched it, you knew there was drama. You just didn't know it was kind of like different personalities on and off camera.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. And then the other biggest thing with Jen that fascinates me about her like the way that she shows up is when Sharif is around, she's a completely different person again. And that's like the reunion. I teased that Sharif was the MVP because she sat there pretty calm the entire time that he was around.
And that's what you see when he's around. She's just calm, like, and happy. And
snowmobiling, his birthday party, the reunion, look at all their scenes together. She's like a completely different person.
Like the scene on the beach was one example, or like the birthday party.
Yeah. And or even when they go dancing in the finale, you know, she takes her dancing, and it's interesting. And Sharif is like one of the coolest, calmest, wisest men I've ever met. Like he truly, he blew me away at the reunion.
Were you shocked? I mean, it's like almost like opposites attract, maybe.
Maybe.
It's interesting. I mean, no, because that is how, you know, that's the consensus online. I mean, that's what Andy asked her when she was at Watch What Happens, that like, you know, people are saying that this is put on. You know, it's
Yeah. It really seems that way. So we'll see what happens.
was there anything like for you, like with filming? I guess you said you didn't regret anything, but is there anything like you wish you had done or you handled differently? I guess that's the same as like regrets, but you know,
Yeah,
or like I wish they showed that. I wish I did that in this situation, like in retrospect.
yeah, I wish that I would have not given up on Lisa. Like, I wish that I would have proved my point and taken it home, because I kind of backed off on how I feel about her. I allowed her to kind of walk all over me, and I stopped challenging it. I wish I would have proved that she's contrived, manipulated, a liar, curated, and she tries to control everything behind the scenes. And especially like with the bartender thing, I just backed off because of her reaction, because I didn't want her to think I was coming after her business, because that's not what it was about. It was about the fact that she made me use these bartenders, and they didn't show up the way that I think she would want them to. And as a business owner, if I had like an esthetician or an employee misrepresenting my brands like that, I'd want to know, especially if they're my go-to one that I recommend for people.
Is that really the basis? I mean, I know we saw it on the show, but like, is that really the basis for your, I guess, demise? I don't even know if you had a friendship, but like really the root of the problems between you and Lisa, like day one, is it this whole party with the bartenders?
Yeah, I mean, that just kind of put the nail in the coffin, if you will. But before I even met Lisa, she had a problem with me. So I mean, we started off on the wrong foot from the beginning, prior to even meeting her.
And it
Because
just,
she was talking mad shit. People were screenshotting things she was saying about me. She was trying to control who could be friends with me, who like don't go unfollow her, go, like she was trying to control, because she did not want me there. And she'll deny that, but Lisa does not think I'm good enough to be in her presence.
really?
Yes. And I wish that I would have not backed down, and I wish I would have stood up for myself and been stronger with her. So
Do you think that's a misperception of you? Like, this goes back to what you were saying about Jen also. You know, like there's a lot of, you know, I think chatter online that, you know, like you're Heather's lapdog. I mean, I'm not saying this, I'm just saying, like, do you think that's a misperception of you?
uh-huh. I do.
Like,
It's because I'm nice, and I was trying to give Lisa the benefit of the doubt. But after about the fifth clean slate still being dirty, I realized quickly I'm not going to play into her bullshit anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to speak my mind, challenge her, and call her out when she's lying.
you're like, I had enough.
I've had enough with that one. Yes.
So, like, speaking of Heather, so I mean, like, have you ever had a fight with Heather?
Not a fight, but we strongly disagreed on things. Yes.
So, like, if Heather pissed you off, you would stand up to her and tell her.
100%. Yeah. So right before we started filming, Heather and I didn't talk for like 2 months.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, nothing related to the show. Just we had such a strong disagreement on another group of our friends that it was like another group of friends that we have. That, yeah. No, Heather and I are not scared to speak our mind, especially me. I challenge Heather more than anyone. And I guarantee if you asked her that, she would agree.
Well, I mean, just, you know, because I think, the misperception. Like, that's maybe why Jen said, oh, she's the weak one or whatever.
Well, here's the thing is because I speak, I communicate, I use words, I stay calm, I stay respectful. I don't get in your face and scream and yell and throw a tantrum and then try to like create a shitstorm on the side so no one can see what's really going on over here like Jen and Lisa do. I just talk to you. And that is so hard for Jen and Lisa. Because Lisa, when she's being called out, just starts yelling. Have you noticed that? She starts losing her mind. And then Jen explodes. I can't even talk.
It was quite an explosive reunion. What did you and Heather have a fight about before the show? Like, just this other group of friends, you didn't agree on someone in the group?
No, it was so stupid. It was like a she said thing. Like it was 3 of us involved with another girlfriend. And it was like, I told someone something in confidence and then she told me Heather, I had thought I told something to Heather in confidence and then she went and told the friend and the friend came and told me and it was about the friend that I didn't like something she was doing or something really stupid. But you know how these things go.
Yes.
It just spirals.
There are things in life that, even not being on a TV show, that you're like, okay, like, I think we're not on the same page anymore. And then you just realize you haven't spoken to a certain someone in months and you're like, now I'm kind of mad and I think they're just as mad at me. Oh, I get it. And I don't think COVID helps either because I think people have like a lot more time on their hands for everything. So it sounds like out of this whole group, you are the least close at this present moment to Jen and Lisa.
Correct. Yeah. I speak with Heather and Meredith daily. Meredith and I have built a really good relationship. And then I check in with Mary often.
Do you find it hard to be friends with Meredith? Like, is it hard because of Lisa? You know, like they're such good friends, or?
No, Meredith and I are able to keep Lisa in a silo, if you will.
That makes sense.
That really doesn't affect my relationship with Meredith. We're able to not even go there, to be honest with you.
I know. I saw the other day on social media, you got your Brooks Marks tracksuit. Well, Meredith and Brooks were on this show, and mine is coming, hopefully, but I don't have mine. So I was jealous when you revealed this the other day. I'm like, I guess I understand you come before me in the hierarchy of Salt Lake.
I mean, I can put in a good word for you, David.
Okay. I mean, they were on the show. I basically threw myself at Brooks on the show to be like, listen, hook a sister up over here.
I know that he was sold out for a minute.
I know. I think that's what it is. And no shade to Brooks or Meredith because I love them dearly. So what about, you know, because like you said, like Katie gave you advice just to be yourself on the show and like show it all. Like what was the decision to have your father on the show? Like, was that something you grappled with, or was it like, no, this is my life, I'm going to show it? Because that's like a really personal fact that maybe you didn't need to show. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have showed it. I'm just saying, like, was that a hard thing to decide to do?
Well, yes, it was very difficult because I worried tremendously about my father's mental health and his well-being. And I know that opening up your life in this situation will open him up to a lot of criticism. And I did not want him, if he's going to be vulnerable and honest, I didn't want him to have to deal with that. However, at that point in time, he was living with me. I was taking care of him. He had just gotten out of rehab and we were trying to manage, okay, I really want this. I want to take this opportunity with the show. I really want to do it. But is my father's situation going to not allow me to do it, if that makes sense? And so I just spoke with my dad about it and he was like, no, hell yeah. Like I'm down for that.
That's good.
I think it was cathartic for him. It was like therapeutic and like an accountability thing.
Do you think the show helped him? Because like I know he had been in like sober living before. Like, do you think the show helped him get back there? Like, I don't mean like bravo the producers. I just mean like being part of this journey. Absolutely.
Because I think it forced him to really look at himself in the mirror and be honest of where he was at. And knowing that the camera brought it out in him. Like, he was the most honest and real I've seen him be when he was in front of a camera. It was really cool because for the last decade, we did this song and dance of him telling me what I want to hear and him saying one thing and doing another, right?
Yeah.
And for the camera, like, forced him to actually, like, get real.
Yeah,
And
you can't hide from the camera.
yeah.
Did he watch the show? Like, when it was, so like, and when did you last speak to him? Because I know, like, earlier in the year, like a few weeks ago, you said like you hadn't heard from him. Is that still the case?
Yes, unfortunately. So I have not watched, I don't know if he's watched the show. I don't know what's going on with him. When the epidemic hit and we all quarantined, he spent time here at my home. He lived with us during that time because obvious reasons. And he is doing so well. He was like helping me on projects around my house, spending a lot of time with the kids. He was even working outside on building like decks. Like he actually was thriving. But some things happened where boundaries were broken. And so I had to ask him to go and find an apartment because that was always part of my deal. Is like, I'm going to help you, but you have to be sufficient, like self-sufficient. Like, you are a 64-year-old man. You need to be independent because it's not healthy for me and my family to have him like as one of my children, if you will.
Yeah.
I know people they can disagree all they want, but no one knows what it's like to be in my shoes and how dysfunctional it is with roles reversed. And my dad had just worked so hard on being sober in his sobriety. I didn't want to enable any past cycles or behaviors, or so it really is the best in his best interest, but that really pissed him off. And when I wasn't giving him everything he wanted and I was holding my boundaries with him, he stopped speaking to me. So the last time I spoke to my dad was my birthday, which was in September last year.
Wow. Right. And it's like, I mean, look, I'm not a psychiatrist, but right, like it's like enabling in, and you know, there's like, we all have different addictions, but it's like enabling to say yes to everything.
Yeah. Because you just slip right back into your old cycles. And with addiction, a lot of people aren't aware of like a lot of the mental health issues behind it, that usually people are masking or some past trauma, or, you know, it's very, I mean, I'm not an expert either, but I did spend a lot of time studying with my dad. And yeah, there's a lot of things that trigger addiction.
Yeah.
And he has to be willing to continue that work.
So you haven't spoken to him, like he moved out to the apartment and now, so you don't know if he's like he's in sober living or not. You don't know.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
My brother Will talks to him, but which is interesting because we saw Will on the show, right? And he's not even, my dad was his stepdad. So he's not even a biological son of my father. So I think that's really big of Will.
Yeah.
But
well, hopefully he's okay.
it seems that he's okay.
That's good.
Like, meaning he has a roof over his head and he, you know, he's okay.
And it sounds like the show at least pushed him in the right direction.
Yes, 100%. My dad would not be here today had, one, I not intervened, and two, I truly believe that if he didn't share his journey in such a big way.
So that's good.
Yeah, it's been a huge success for him in
That's
that way.
good. So going back to the girls, I mean, I'm glad that he's heading in the right direction. Let's just break this down because I know it was one of the central dramas of the season, but you're not afraid of Jen Shah.
No, I'm not afraid of her. I was afraid of the reaction. But I mean, Jen Shah did say and threaten my life. she told me many times that she was going to kill me and bury me in the lake behind my house. Okay, so at that point in time, I didn't know if she is all bark. I didn't know if she really meant it. I didn't know. Once you hear that multiple times, right? So yeah, it's not like I'm scared of her as a person. It's like it's scared of that reaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah. I used to be scared of her. Now I kind of see right through it, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel Lisa and Meredith are afraid of Jen Shah? I mean, Mary admitted at the reunion that nobody said that except for herself, but
I know that was BS, by the way, because she did in scene. You saw her say, Meredith and Lisa called me and told me this.
yeah.
And then she confirmed it again. So for her to like change her story, but at least it wasn't on me. I just repeated what I had heard. So, you know.
See what happens in Housewives when you repeat something you've heard?
Messy, messy, messy. The messenger always gets shot.
But is anyone really afraid of Jen Shah in real life? I mean, Meredith and Lisa don't seem like they're afraid of her to me. But I'm not there.
No, I don't think anyone's really scared of her. They just don't want to be a target of her attacks.
I mean, it's going to be, yeah, that makes sense. So you're obviously, I mean, I assume you're closest to Heather out of all these girls. You guys go out and speak all the time. So who would you, if someone said to you, you know, season 2, we're not inviting everyone back. I imagine you're going to choose between Jen and Lisa. Who would you like to not see back if you could choose one of those two?
That is such a hard question. Do other housewives answer this question?
Listen, behind the velvet rope, people usually answer everything, Whitney.
I don't want to get myself in trouble. But I will say, based on I would say Lisa, because she loves to keep everything off camera. And so I think that to be a good housewife and to have a good show, you have to be willing to say what you think and feel on camera and not try to control the situation off camera. And that was one of the most frustrating things about working with Lisa.
So you take Jen back over Lisa?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so just since I'm a lover, not a fighter, can you say 3 nice things about Lisa?
Yes, I can.
What are they?
Well, I could give you like funny Lisa answers, but I'm not going to subscribe to that bullshit. I was going to be like, well, I like her hair. I like her. That was how Lisa would answer it. But Lisa, I respect her as a businesswoman. She's very confident and strong. She's Lisa. And in a weird way, I respect how much she loves herself.
Okay, we'll count that one.
Okay, let me just go back to this. She's a successful businesswoman. I like her hair. And she knows what she wants. How about that? And as a woman, those are very respectable things.
Yeah, like knowing what you want. That's I find that
driven. There we go. Driven.
A positive.
Yes.
So other than Heather, like it sounds like you speak to Heather, you speak to Mary, you speak to Meredith now, and you don't speak to Jen or Lisa.
No, Jen and I actually, after the reunion, were on good terms. We left the reunion fine. I just haven't spoken to her, so I don't really know where we stand.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. How was the reunion for you? Was it like harder than you expected just for you personally? Was it? Because I mean, you are a fan, like, you know, you watched a lot of, was it easier or was it exactly what you expected basically?
It was a little bit easier than I expected, to be honest. I went in like expecting the worst, thinking it was gonna be like the hardest day of my life, but I actually loved everything about it, from waking up and getting ready to arriving to the studio. I mean, just being in New York alone, even though it was like different than I remember it, everything being shut down, and just still, it just was incredible. And I loved sitting there with the women and it, in a sense, like working it out. I don't know how much we actually worked out, but like just it was cathartic. It was like therapy. The hardest part was sitting there with good posture all day.
It's a long day.
My leg was numb the entire time because I was trying to get my leg pop out of the slit. And so I was so uncomfortable physically, but I loved it. And I loved meeting Andy in person.
You did?
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been totally surreal, though, because, like, you've watched so many reunions where you're just like, this is so strange. Like, I'm part of this now. And
yeah, I loved it. It was so cool.
How'd you choose the dress you chose? Was it like, did you have options? You know what I mean? Like, was this like, okay, here's my second choice, and at the last minute, or you just knew this was the dress you were going to wear the whole time?
I spent months looking for a gown, and when I found the designer, Leah Stubla, I knew right away because I wanted to come in strong and kind of make a statement. And I just loved how the skirt like kind of looked like a rose, if you will. Like
That's true.
Rose. And so it was really just kind of like symbolic of how I wanted to show up to the reunion, because I grew tremendously from the time we wrapped season 1 to the reunion. And I just wanted to like own that.
You did, like, you feel that this process, this whole thing has changed you?
Yes.
Like, how so? Like, how'd you grow?
It's hard to put it into words, but learning that it's okay to say what I think and feel. It's okay because before I never wanted to upset anyone. I never want to say the wrong thing or hurt someone's feelings. And I've learned that like you can still be honest and still be kind. And not doubting myself. I'm still working on it, but I struggle with self-doubt tremendously. And it's something I'm still working on, but I have learned that my voice is powerful. I am enough, and to not doubt it, because my instincts are on point, and I'm very smart, and I'm successful, and I deserve to be here just as much as every other woman.
So you feel like, in a way, the show helped, this whole season, like, it kind of helped you find your voice?
Yeah, 100%. I grew, I think, 10 years in 1 year. Like,
I could see that. I think we see a change, like, in you towards, like, the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're not as worried about offending people with your actions or words.
Yeah.
I don't think that's such a bad thing.
I learned that it only hurts me if I hold it inside.
Who do you think has changed the most, like, throughout this whole process? You, or I guess someone else? And it could be a positive change or a negative change. I
think that I've probably grown the most, but Heather's right there with me in a positive way. I've really seen a lot of her insecurities become strengths. And
she alluded to that at the reunion too, that
yeah,
she didn't think anyone would be interested in her life either. And just, as like a mom and a single mom and just having broken away from the church, but she seemed to find her voice too.
Yeah.
Who do you think changed for the worst?
Lisa. She just got nastier. Like, it's so funny because she goes around saying that everyone else is here to be famous, but she's the only one talking about it. Like, it went to her head, and she's actually progressively gotten worse towards me. Like, I think that she's gotten more of her negative strengths or negative sides that I witnessed from her have gotten worse.
Like, just as far as coming after you?
Like the manipulations, the lies, the curation, the fakeness.
What about, let's talk about Mary. I mean, no, really, what about Mary? I kind of need to know I need to talk about her rant that we talked about at the reunion. She admits it was her, but I didn't understand her explanation. I don't know. I didn't understand her explanation. I mean, it was clearly her and she admitted it. Also, I mean, is Whitney shocked about the fact that Mary admitted she sleeps in separate beds from her husband? I don't know. There's a lot more we have to get into. Guys, Salt Lake is here, the reunion tonight. So, part 2 to this chat, it's coming soon. Read between the lines very, very soon. Tune in. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Behind the Velvet Rope. Because without you listeners, I would just be a crazy person with voices in my head. And if you like what you hear, subscribe on Apple Podcasts under Behind the Velvet Rope. And when you're done subscribing, feel free to leave a 5-star write-up review, because the write-up reviews actually count. We read each and every one of them. We post the best ones, and the reviews really help our shows keep going, and we really appreciate everything you guys say, especially the positive ones. And if you want to find us online, we're at Behind Velvet Rope on Instagram. We are at David Yontef on Instagram. We're Behind the Velvet Rope on Apple Podcasts. Or head on over to Patreon, because you know what? There are just some things we can't talk about here. So for our bonus episodes, go to Patreon and type in Behind the Velvet Rope. And if you still aren't sick of me and you want more David, go to Cameo and book me on Cameo. And you can ask me anything there. I'll answer whatever you want. And I have a bargain basement price of $10. Thank you guys. See you soon.